Are your agile teams co-located in a single room with stickies on a whiteboard, or are you working with hybrid working teams and global teams across the world in different time zones? And is that the same for your customer experiences that you're building and even your employee experiences when you're a global organization? Hi, I'm Isaac Sacolick. I'm the author of Digital Trailblazer. And in this episode of the Driving Digital Stand-Up and the author interview series, I talk about chapter 6 of my book, Digital Trailblazer, and what it means to be transforming experiences with a global perspective.
Hello, Ginny. And for those of you who do not know Ginny yet, Ginny Hamilton is a CIO community manager, and most important to me, the editor of Digital Trailblazer. How's it going again, Ginny?
It's going well. Thanks, Isaac. I'm excited to talk to you about one of my most favorite chapters in the book, chapter 6, the India chapter. And one of the reasons why I love this chapter so much is you're a great storyteller. And this chapter is such a departure, maybe not such, but it's a bit of a departure from the more technical aspects of transformation that you cover in previous chapters. And in chapter 6, you take us on your travels to India. There's photos on the website for folks who haven't seen them yet. And you paint a great picture. You start us out with this long flight with your colleague, Eleanor. And so I guess I'm wondering, can you talk to us about why you chose to go into global experiences and tell stories about your trips to India in this chapter in the book?
Yeah, Ginny, when I was writing the book, I was doing chapter by chapter, about 2 or 3 weeks in between them. And I had done the agile chapter, that was chapter 5. And I did the chapter on product management and architecture. And I said, look, I need to write something about experience, about customer and employee experiences and what that's like. But every time I've ever done applications or anything that's customer facing, I've always hired amazing customer experience people. This is not my strength. I've always had them come in and say, this is how this should work. And it's because, if you've ever been a technologist building an app, you tend to build the app for yourself, not necessarily for your audience. Right. And so things look a little bit clunky and a little bit more technical than they should for your average audience. So I said, how am I going to bring experience to my readers, for those who are data scientists or technologists, even product managers? And India really became that chapter for me. Right, being able to sit on a plane and see what a good experience was on a plane, and contrast that with a less than adequate experience was on the plane. What's it like when we start looking at the view of what a customer and employee experience is when we're in a global setting? Right. And so that's what I wanted to bring to everybody by writing these stories. Is we live in a global world, we work with people globally, we have a global mindset. That's the mindset we need when we build our experiences out. It requires us as innovators to step out of our comfort zone a little bit, and seeing the world through somebody else's lens. And when you think about it, from the world of a DevOps engineer, for example. In DevOps, we came from a world of stickies and stand-ups and co-located rooms, and now we're working with remote, hybrid working, diverse teams, multiple locations. We need to have a very wide perspective around how people work differently in different countries, how we think about different time zones, what language we're using.
Sure.
And that's the perspective I wanted to share in this chapter.
Yeah, and I think you do a really good job of, highlighting the importance of collaboration at a global scale. And I think another thing you do well in this chapter is that you highlight some key lessons on developing relationships and the importance of partnering with people in other organizations, and in particular with marketers. And so talk to me a little bit about, if I'm a digital trailblazer and I don't have much knowledge of how marketing operates, what should I do to develop a relationship with a marketer?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you can almost flip the question around, right? If I'm a marketer and I wanted to learn a little bit about data science, or I wanted to learn a little bit about DevOps, and I know nothing about this stuff, we're trying to expand the breadth of knowledge that we have, not just in our area. We're trying to learn what our colleagues are doing and why it's important to them. And so the very first thing I would recommend doing is just learning the terminology a little bit.
Okay.
Right? Understand what SEO is about, understand what SEM is about. Go look at what some of the disciplines are under content marketing and understand a little bit about what that organization's objectives are, right?
Mhm.
Are they lead gen? Are they thought leadership and branding? Really start diving into your company and your products that you work on, and your operations that you work on. What is marketing charged with? So get a little bit of research going so you understand their world a little bit. From a technology perspective, right? You have an advantage, right? There are over 9,000 marketing technologies out there. Okay, and that comes from Scott Brinker, somebody I quote in the book, who always comes out with his landscape on marketing technologies. Go down, go sign up for them. Go use one that is in an area that you understand, figure out what it's like sending out an email campaign, or go look at some analytics off of your website or off of a website. You're going to get a sense of what their world is like in terms of the tools that they're using. Then most importantly, get used to asking somebody, can I follow you and learn how you do your job? Right? Product managers, this is something you have to get really good at, because that's how you get a voice of customer into what you're building. But as a technologist, meet a marketer and say, look, can I just follow you for a day? If somebody asked you that, you would probably say, yeah, come hang out. Join a stand-up, join a war room call or a bridge call for an outage. So do it both ways and develop a relationship. By that way, you're sharing what you're doing and what you do on a daily basis, and you're also learning what a marketer is doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, and you're right. I would say yes to somebody who came to me with that request, but I would probably only say yes to them if I could tell that they were genuinely interested in learning and had done a little bit of the research themselves, like you just suggested. So I think you can't just go up to somebody and say, I want to learn marketing. Teach me. You have to do exactly what you described, like familiarize yourself with the terminology, come in with what you want to learn, and then you'll be taken more seriously, whether that's marketing or any of the other functions that digital trailblazers might work with. And I think that's a cool theme throughout the book. It's like, to become a really well-rounded digital trailblazer, you've got to step out of your comfort zone and you've got to start collaborating with people in different functions. And it also talks about the importance of developing personal relationships and how much that can really help you. And so I wonder if you can talk a little bit about how you did it, how you developed a personal relationship like the one you developed with Eleanor, who comes back to you in the next chapter, chapter 7, and collaborates with you again. So, well, what do you do? How do you actually get those relationships to go from just like standard Zoom meeting, let's collaborate, to we have a real relationship here?
Chitty, you actually cut a couple of the paragraphs in Digital Trailblazer where I talk about contemplating this, right? So, and you did the right thing, but I'm going to share them here, right? You don't say, wake up one day and say, I'm going to figure out how to have a relationship with the CIO and get on his calendar, or I'm going to go create a relationship with the CMO and get on her calendar. They'll see the calendar on their very busy schedule, have no context, right? So there's some things you need to do ahead of that to be able to be ready to set up a relationship, particularly with an executive, right? And you can do this. This isn't that hard. I actually shared some of this in a recent blog post and video. You can get to it at starcio.com/build-relationships. But I'm going to summarize it for you here, Ginny. Number one, do your homework, right? Get to know some people in their organization, step in their shoes, understand their objectives. What are they trying to accomplish? Learn their pain points. Every department has a pain point. You're in technology, tech debt is a pain point. You're in data science, poor data quality is a pain point. You go talk to a marketer, they're going to tell you a whole bunch of other pain points. So learn their pain points, then plan an agenda. Right? Why are you going to go speak? Why do you want a relationship with this person? When I was thinking of Eleanor at the time, I could tell she and her department were underserved from a technology perspective, right? Nobody was coming to me and saying, Isaac, go help Eleanor with circulation, or go help Eleanor with lead gen. And I was looking at all the things she was doing with spreadsheets, with getting lists moving in and out of databases, with some of her budget against buying lists and what they were doing with that. And I said, this is probably a role for technology in here. That goes all the way back to 2014. So plan your agenda. And then when you finally do get in front of that executive, make sure you have an agenda set and establish your credibility. right? Show that you've been learning, show that you have some ideas for them. And even when you do that, at the end of that video, I say, make sure you leave yourself some outcomes that you're trying to get to, some next steps to work with that executive, and plan on doing that cycle 3 times, right? If I do that just once, it might be one and done. That executive is going to go back to their day job. If I do that 2 or 3 times, then I can start actually providing value back to them, provide a ton of value back to them. When you're doing that, Eleanor and I did not get on a plane first. We had breakfast a bunch of times. She wanted to have breakfast with me. I remember those sessions very well, right? So now I'm starting to form a relationship just by having coffee or breakfast with them. And then most important, I tell this in that blog post, present options and let them make decisions, right? You're coming in as a guide, as an expert, provide them options for what they're working on and let them understand what decisions are in front of them, or maybe not to make a decision, right? And that's how you develop a really good relationship with an executive.
Yeah, I love that notion of it has to be at least 3 times. They say that twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a trend. So at least at the 3-time mark, you're demonstrating that you're showing up time and again, that you're
showing up. Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Well, don't forget, to those of you who are listening, that we do have some photos from Isaac's trip to India on his community site. It's really cool to actually see what he painted a picture of. And with that, Isaac, I will toss it back to you.
Jenny, thanks for that. This was chapter 6 on developing a global experience and perspective. And our next video is going to feature Eleanor again from chapter 7, when we talk about data and getting out of the situations of having bad data. So I can't wait to talk to you about that episode.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Digital Trailblazer Author Interview Series. Please sign up for my YouTube channel and subscribe. That's the Driving Digital Stand-Up. And if you buy the book, Digital Trailblazer, you'll learn how to get access to the Digital Trailblazer community, where I have tons of more content and videos to accelerate your learning around digital transformation. Thank you and have a great day.